New Zealand still very much in touch with that target. Only one problem, they've run out of wickets. So it means that that's the end of the game, and it's one of those very strange parts of this particular run chase, because at all stages you saw that they were very much in the hunt. The required rate never really went anywhere above 6 or thereabouts, in fact generally hovering below that, and yet they simply ran out of wickets, and that just proves it. 217 all out, chasing 253, and they still had 6 overs to get the remaining 36 runs for victory. The final victory margin 35, and a couple of turning points. I reckon one of them could have been the wicket of Cain Williamson and Jimmy Neesham, who looked like comfortably taking New Zealand through with overs to spare. That bizarre run out putting paid to his efforts. Which means it's a 4-1 victory for India in the series. Just that one hiccup in Hamilton. Otherwise, it's been pretty much the kind of series India would have wanted to take out of their trip down under. Gentlemen, Zaheer Khan, Harsha, Bhogle in the studio. I think they'll be very satisfied with their work overall in the series, yes, not just today.
Yes, they would. But a very brief view from New Zealand side before we come on to the India side. 18 for 4. They should be very, very angry with themselves for losing this game. But it showed the depth in India, and it just showed you that partnership that Ambati Rayudu dragged you along, then with Kedar Jadhav, then Hardik Pandya's finish. So you had the strength to take you through. And I think the moment you got to 250, as we said, it was fairly even thereafter.
Given that we're talking about this as a run-up to the World Cup, and yes, of course, we've talked a lot about individual selections, but as a team, to prepare for a tournament like that, you want games like this in a build-up.
And it's important to focus on the processes, which has been the case with the Indian team. It didn't matter who is resting, who is playing. It's the 11 which is taking the field has to think of a win. That's something which has been the process which has been followed. It was great to see that even though the last match was had that kind of a loss, Indian team still backed themselves to come and bat first, after winning the toss. So that is something which was good to see. It's taking more responsibility. From New Zealand point of view, I felt that it was a combination. It was a combination of bad batting, which we've been seeing right throughout the series. There are no partnership building, but also when you have the team 18 for 4, after that you need to be aggressive. You need to be proactive on the field. You can't let the game slip from there. You have to take enough good measures and use your resources well to make sure that you don't let the team get away from you, and that's something which happened today. And Cain Williamson probably has not looked himself right throughout the series. There is some kind of pressure, some things which are not really going well in terms of planning. That self-doubt has been there. He's looking frustrated. So that's something from New Zealand's point of view going in the World Cup. It's very important that they give the right kind of confidence and the backup to Cain Williamson. He need to be right up there when it comes to World Cup for New Zealand.
I think he's feeling the need to up the scoring rate, which is not his role actually. That's the role of the two above him, and then Taylor, Latham, and the others. And he's just got to bat through. The big plus for India here was India also played a bowler short. Normally Hardik Pandya is 5th. And then you have Jadhav and someone helping along. Pandya played as the 4th, and you wanted 10 out of Jadhav and Vijay Shankar, who, come to think of it, Vijay Shankar has had a very good game too. I think he's done his chances no harm. It was a very, very good, high-quality innings that he played. Then he was helped by the fact that Shami took those 2 wickets, but he still bowled at under 5 and over, those 4 overs. He's plus in the field. So India played a bowler short, in a sense, through responsibility on Chahal and Pandya, and they came good as well. Pandya's 250 looks bad because of the last over where he conceded a couple of sixes, but he's done everything asked of him.
And even though New Zealand didn't bat their 50 overs, you had the 5th bowler already having bowled 11 overs in their quota. So in that sense,
there's something about that Jadhav. I mean, every time I see Kedar Jadhav bowl, I think it can't last. And I think, no, they'll thought. I mean, Australia found a way of playing him. They just sat back in the crease and started hitting to cow corner of the back foot. You think at some point they'll figure out Kedar Jadhav. Now, he's been doing this for well over a year now, and he's still giving you today what? He bowled 7 overs today?
Yeah.
Yeah, he bowled 7 overs, 1 for 34, which means in terms of economy rate, he's par. and he's given you a wicket. What more do you want from the fifth bowler?
I reckon it's the cup of tea that you need. You need to have a sip of cup of tea while the ball's coming. You have enough time to wait for it, and then sit back and wait and hit it at the right time.
Maybe
boredom.
All these overseas teams was called Rajat Bhatia and play him in the nets. Just keep playing Rajat Bhatia.
But Jadhav is getting smarter.
Yeah.
He's getting confident. You know, he's enjoying that responsibility. He's someone who is not bowled in first class, but in international cricket he has created this impact, and now when he's coming on to bowl, you can see that sense of confidence as well. That he knows he can do this job, and he's been varying that pace as well. So even though the ball which he's bowling really slow has been having that impact on batsmen, but he's been very smart in terms of using those angle of deliveries where he delivers it from. And the pace also he's been varying beautifully.
So he bowls that just above stump high ball. He's bowling one of those.
Yeah.
He's bowling one from a yard behind. He's pushing one through. So he's now started getting his variations. He's a wonderful player to watch.
Just to stay on Williamson for a moment, you
Yeah.
said that he felt the need to up the run
I got
rate.
the feeling,
question is, did he?
Well, not today. Not
And he shouldn't have.
today. Not today. But maybe he's, as he said, maybe he's in that frame that he thinks he needs to score quicker, because that the way he got out, that partnership was batting beautifully. He got out slogging to deep mid wicket. So maybe he felt the need there. Maybe he thought, Jadhav, I'll slog one, which is very unlike him.
Exactly. I mean, if a Jimmy Neesham perishes caught on the boundary, and today he didn't perish that way, it's the way he goes. But the two big hitters, one was run out and the other just simply succumbed to a wrong on which they simply could not read. Let's have a look at the fall of wickets, and this again will tell you a story of how they were pretty much in the game throughout. I mean, Cain Williamson in the 26th over at 105 for 3. You know you're well on your way to the game. You're halfway there. You've got 140 runs to score in 25 overs. There's absolutely no need to press the panic button. And I think this is about
67 there. Then after that, just 14, 16. Then again they got a good one, about 40, 41. But not a single partnership that went on. Even when Neesham was batting, Neesham and Santner were batting, it was still within reach. But India kept taking wickets. And you remember we keep talking about India taking wickets in the middle overs, keep taking wickets in the middle overs. That's exactly what's happened today. Look, if you say the middle overs end at 40, 41, India got 8 wickets. So this was the batsmen set it up, but this was a triumph for the bowlers as well.
Yeah, I just want to stay on this for a second, because the fact that you were talking about it, and sometimes you say, okay, you have one big partnership and wickets fall in slumps, but in this case, Harsha, just have a look at this. You're talking about the fact that there were little partnerships, but every time a partnership flourished, you had wickets falling.
So look at one for 18. That was the big one, and then Munro. I thought Munro was also a big wicket, 2 for 37, but Ross Taylor's wicket was also a funny one. So they'll look down that, will New Zealand, and say, right, Ross Taylor could have gone another way. Neesham was a very strange run out. So they look at that and say, yeah.
That was interesting one, isn't it? Ross Taylor was very confident and sure that ball was high.
Yeah.
It's the non-striker which he was looking support from, and that's something with DRS. It's so interesting. Every time we have some incident or the other when we feel that there has to be a method to be followed, and if you look at Cain Williamson's series, you know the most probably disappointing and the frustrating point from his side was that he has always been getting set and getting out. You know,
the reason we are staying on this for so long is that this is the story of the match in itself there.
Yeah.
The fact that they didn't have enough partnerships building up, and the two bizarre dismissals of Ross Taylor and James Neesham.
But moving on from New Zealand's woes, coming back to all India's gains from the series, Mohammad Shami is one that you have.
The biggest.
Yeah.
Absolutely stand out.
Big gains. Shami was definitely the biggest gain. Probably a serious contender for player of the series as well.
Yeah.
I think the return of Hardik Pandya was a big plus. The return of Chahal, in a sense, the return. It's not that he was out for too long, but Chahal coming back and picking up the wickets was a big plus. So I think India looked back at this series. The biggest, as I said, was Shami, because your third seamer now, not third as in ranking 1, 2, 3, but 3 seamers out of 3 because the other 2 had locked their place. Was a big plus. So India is going to look back at the series and say, you know what? I think we gave a ticket to Shami, We are very happy with Chahal and Hardik coming back. Hardik, there was that question mark, remember, on where that issue is going to go. We gave a ticket to Ambati Raidu, and we've got a serious option in Vijay Shankar there as well. So lots to learn and lots of positives in this series.
And the one thing that you kept harping on about for the first 5 matches is, of course, the taking 2 wickets in the first 10 overs, which India have done consistently in 2019, and pretty much everywhere Shami has been the leader.
Yeah, consistency has been superb, and that's something which is very important. We've always been talking about setting that tone. You know, we've got plenty of examples, and more we talk about, you know, be it batting or bowling. More often than not, you will have below par scores when you have those first 2 wickets taken in the first 10 overs, and that's something which is very important. You've seen it with batting as well. You know, every time you have 2 or 3 wickets down, how much effort and energy is required to get a team to a winnings total like today. Similarly with bowling, if you don't take that wicket, what the point which you were mentioning, Harsha, earlier was you know, to get Vijay Shankar bowling there. So your 5th bowler gets that comfort zone now bowling those 3-4 overs. When there are 2 wickets down, there is a build-up phase of the opposition which you can really capitalize on. Imagine if it's no loss for 30 runs also can create a huge pressure on the 5th bowler which is coming.
The other thing is they've not got those wickets slogging except for one game where it was 63 for 2. In every game it's been around 4 and over. That means
that 63 was that 120 run over, which was an anomaly.
Yeah.
So
there's 120 run over, correct?
Yeah.
But
so
again, But again, I mean, coming to that, let's also remind ourselves that these last few performances where India have got 2 wickets up front have been minus Jasprit Bumrah.
Yes.
So he's going to be the addition to the side.
But you know, the interesting one is, it's easy to say minus Jasprit Bumrah. But if Bumrah had been available, whose place would he have taken?
Yeah,
because Bhuvneshwar would have been in the side anyway. Bumrah would have taken Shami's place. And Shami has done everything that a Bumrah would have done. You look at those figures and, you look at those figures and you say, would you have been happy if those had belonged to Jasprit Bumrah? You would have said, I would have been very happy if those had belonged to Jasprit Bumrah. So Shami has done everything that Bumrah would have done.
See, what's happening right now is because of these figures and because of emergence of Shami as well. Again, you know, he's been out of the team for a while now, and because he's taking wickets consistently now, there might be some kind of discussion around what's going to happen when Bumrah is back. You know, whether you're going to, and Simon Dool has been talking about it.
Yes.
You know, Shami has been pushing Bhuvneshwar a lot, because if it comes to importance of wicket and creating that platform, you might in some games think that okay, we can go a little batting light, you know, back our 7 batters and then bring in Shami in place of Bhuvneshwar.
The attacking wicket taker in Zach post retirement has not gone because he keeps coming back. But it's such a delicious thought. If the track is doing a little bit, if India have Bhuvneshwar, Shami and Bumrah all available to them, you play one spinner, doesn't matter. You can play one spinner and Hardik as the 5th if the track is doing something, and you still have Hardik at 7 and 4 bowlers. So India have that option, and the arrival of Shami is fantastic.
And of course, when it comes to player of the match, we did have a couple of contenders. We chatted about Hardik Pandya being a possible contender, but it has gone to Ambati Raidu. So it's been nicely divided between batsmen and bowlers as far as the 5 matches go.
Which is probably the most important innings of his career in some ways.
Rightly so. I think he was player of the match. There is no doubt about it, because you needed a platform. You've seen the previous match is a classic example of this. You know, you're not going to win the match with 100 runs on the scoreboard. You know, you needed that platform. You needed that platform from where your bowlers can fight back. So it's very important to set that platform, and Raidu played a huge part in setting that platform, which turned out to be a winning one.
I know when you have victories like this and a big series win, you try and bring out all the individual performances. Chahal, we haven't talked too much about, but yet when you see from what happened in England last summer till now, you know, every time he's been benched for a couple of games, you see him looking a little sorry in the dugout, but inside you can see, just give me the ball and I'll fix it.
If I was Chahal, I would spend more time on Hardik Pandya than on myself. The more Hardik Pandya plays, the more Chahal plays. If Hardik Pandya is not around, then it's either Chahal or Kuldeep. So Chahal would be going up to Hardik and saying, "Bhai, tu kuch bhi mat kar yaar, tu kuch bhi mat kar, lekin tu khel. Jab tak tu khelega, main khel raha hu." So Hardik is allowing Chahal to play. So Hardik is playing two roles actually. He's scoring runs, he's taking wickets, but his presence in the side allows you to play both Kuldeep and Chahal, and that's a big part of India's bowling. So yeah, Chahal, big plus.
And of course, again, looking back at the series, we haven't quite talked about the batting enough. Shikhar Dhawan, couple of big scores.
But he wants a big one somewhere before the World Cup, right? Shikhar wants a big one.
But that's his territory. The moment there's a multi-nation tournament, something happens to him. He's like, okay, fine, Champions Trophy, multi-nation tournament, not a bilateral series. I'm coming to the party.
Look, he's the combination of Rohit and Shikhar has been working beautifully. You know, Shikhar, you might see him getting out playing that shot which you saw today, but that's something which puts Rohit Sharma into his comfort zone. You know, he can take his time. So that's something which the batting styles of those two complement each other. And from that point of view, I think for batsmen it's always about going back in that zone and having such a wonderful record in England especially. You know, Shikhar will be just waiting to go back into that zone. You know, with certain players, we've seen on certain grounds, certain stadiums, they go back to, and suddenly it doesn't matter what kind of numbers they have leading up to that particular match. You know, so that's something which Shikhar will surely be looking forward to.
Player of the match, of course, and long expected lines. Player of the series as well. Delighted that it's gone to a bowler, Mohammad Shami. Again,
so look at me. Look at that side.
Both of you, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the...
No, but we keep saying what a big plus Shami was. Remember 2015 World Cup, he really bowled well.
Yeah.
So it's not that he couldn't. He really bowled well in the 2015 World Cup. So that's a plus. Yeah, I mean, I enjoy. When Shami is bowling well, you just enjoy watching him bowl because he's got both ways movement. He nips it back off the deck and he bowls a very good Yorker and bouncer. So he's got everything.
And without playing 5 games.
Yeah, there you go. He missed one.
Yeah.
He missed one.
He missed one.
Missed
He
one.
got 2 man of the matches and he got wickets again today,
Yeah.
sir. Everything from Shami.
Overall numbers, if you have a look at, let's just remind ourselves, man of the series as far as these 5 ODIs are concerned, 4 technically as far as Shami himself is concerned. But what about his overall numbers for 2019? Let's have a look at that. There's another reminder. We've shown this to you before. I think it's worth looking at over and over again. 7 matches in 2019 so far, 14 wickets. And this is the period when we've talked about India consistently picking up 2 wickets in the first 10 overs every single time.
We used to say many years ago that 1.5 wickets a game on an average is a very good strike rate. But he's also got those at an economy rate of 4. So he's taking 2 wickets a game and an economy rate of 4.
Now, Cain Williamson obviously he had to again be honest about it. And he said the match got away from us early on. Obviously, the fact that India scored those extra runs, even though it was not an imposing total, it has to play in your mind when you've got a side 18 for 4. And as you said, you should have had them on the mat. Just the previous game, he bowled 10 overs, bowled out, run home 10 overs. Didn't do it today. Could have done one of the 2.
Look, you talk about momentum as well. You know, you talk about momentum shift. You talk about side getting confident. Now, when the game was going on 18 for 4 and the partnership was building, you know, you had to be proactive at that stage. What happens is if the game goes on to and finishes so Indian the way they finished the innings, you know, the way Hardik came and batted at that strike rate, hit few sixes. That really sets them on the back foot, and that really gets the other team on top. You know, so suddenly the chat from okay, you know, we could have posted this much total. I think we let the game slip. Suddenly, the same kind of chats must be in the New Zealand camp, and Indians on the other side must be thinking that okay, you know, we've got to a great total. We have a chance. Let's just pick up early wickets. That is what momentum we've always been talking about, and that's something which once you get into that zone and that belief is back there. All India needed was to create those early breakthroughs, which did happen around. And I was talking about giving that 15 over mark. You know, it happened at 10.2 overs, 10.3 overs.
The third wicket fell in.
Till about 8 overs, it was looking like okay, New Zealand is getting back in the game. You know, if that 3 overs phase, if it had gone the other way around, things would have been completely different.
Yeah, between 9 and 11, those 2 wickets that fell, we were just talking about, okay, 9 overs done. Guess what? Here's a day when we're not going to get that second wicket.
Yeah, who said that?
Yeah, Hardik got the...
Colin Munro.
Yeah, that was Munro wicket and then Hardik. Look, he also said, if we could have taken the partnerships deeper, like with Tom Latham and myself, things could have been different. So
And
he's
lost wicket at key times.
They kept losing wickets. So sometimes you can look like you're batting deep. Actually, even Matt Henry can bat. We saw that. And Todd Astley can bat. So sometimes you can think I'm batting till 10, but Zach's old theory, one of the old theories in the game, look at how the scoreboard looks with 2 wickets more, and then everybody bats differently.
Now remember, while we might be saying 4-1, done and dusted, end of the series, there's still some cricket to be played. 3 T20 internationals. Now, while it might be a different format, really you have to look at ODI and T20 cricket as the fact that there are a lot of common players. The nucleus of the teams is often the same. And I think from India's point of view, even though they'll have a few new players flying in, they'll still look at this as a preparation for World Cup 2019.
The only thing I would have done differently in this series, at start of game 4, if I had said, look, I'm not going to play Ravindra Jadeja. I've got the 2 wristies, I might play 1, I might play 2. I would have sent him back to play for Saurashtra in the Ranji Trophy final. Because it's been very heartening to see the importance attached to the Ranji Trophy this time. None of the Ranji Trophy players playing the knockouts were picked for India A. So that assigned a lot of importance, and that's wonderful to see. That's the only change. In the T20s, my eyes will be on one person primarily, and that's Rishabh Pant. Because he was not in this side. My eyes will be primarily on Rishabh Pant. There's the others. I'd like to see how Dinesh Karthik goes about it, because I think he's still a sort of marginal pick. So I'd be looking at those 2 more than I would at anybody else.
3 of them have flown in. As you said, they're going to be flying in, reaching just about 24 to 36 hours before the start of the first game. Sid Kaul, Krunal Pandya and Rishabh Pant.
So from this squad, if you just look at the fast bowlers, you've seen that Khalil Ahmed had been given opportunities, and the last match when it mattered, he was sitting out, and Siraj was also not being considered. So that something tells me that maybe they're still looking at that 4th seamer option for the World Cup. Siddharth Kaul might get couple of games. That's something which will be interesting to see how the management is thinking. I think we'll know in the first game itself. If Siddharth Kaul is playing, that means
they like him at the death.
He is back in the scheme of things.
They like him at the death. They like bowling Siddharth Kaul at the death. So maybe that's his role.
When Krunal Pandya first burst into the scene, and you've seen enough of him playing, they were touting him as a possibility to make it into India's 50-over squad. But it's just he still quite hasn't knocked that door down.
I thought if Krunal Pandya had established himself as a bowler who could give you 7-8 overs every day in a one-day international, that the 2 brothers could have played 6 and 7. And Krunal is perfectly capable of batting 6. If the 2 brothers had played 6 and 7, then you could have had someone else at 8. And then you'd have had a really nice, deep batting lineup.
Still leans more towards a batting all-rounder, Krunal?
He is still leaning towards batting all-rounder for sure. And in the squad which we've been discussing, or in the scheme of things, how the team management also has been going about, possibly a backup to Kedar Jadhav. So Ravindra Jadeja gets a go because purely as a bowling all-rounder. But when it comes to backup, because we've seen with Kedar Jadhav as well that he's been susceptible to injuries with his hamstring being tricky. So from the World Cup point of view, I think if you have to look at Krunal, then it will be on those lines is what the feeling goes.
I think it might be a little too late. I think that ship might have sailed because Jadhav got runs. He got runs today. He got runs in an earlier game as well. He's consistently giving you 6-7 overs. He's doing everything asked. So I think Krunal Pandya, that ship might have sailed.
Also, from New Zealand's point of view, it's going to be a very, very important series because they've gone down 4-1 in this ODI series, and from their point of view as well, they'll not just want to repair the damage of what's happened here, but they'll be also looking at filling in those slots.
Yes, sometimes when teams like New Zealand play teams like India in T20s, it's almost like an audition for an IPL contract. Yeah. But that's not going to happen now because that's all done, though Zaheer Khan might look at it carefully. But there's a lot of new names in there. We've seen Scott Kuggeleijn play. We've seen a little bit of Tim Seifert comes in as the keeper. We don't know a lot about Blair Tickner and Daryl Mitchell.
We don't. Daryl Mitchell's we've seen. Blair Tickner very much a newcomer. Listening to Simon Dool on commentary talking about him, he was excited that he's actually made it into the squad. So perhaps not quite one of the contenders as such. But Scott Kuggeleijn won a match for them recently, partnership with Doug Bracewell against Sri Lanka, and that was where he established himself as a good, solid all-rounder.
There can't be two Kuggeleijns, right? Because there's a Chris Kuggeleijn who
I
played for New Zealand.
I think it's his nephew.
Chris Kuggeleijn, correct. Because a name like Kuggeleijn, there can't be too many of those around. So, Arun Lal caught Chris Kuggeleijn, bowled Richard Hadley for the wicket. I remember that. I was calling it all those hundreds of years ago.
Yes. Of course, if we did show you the entire squad, but there are a couple of permutations, combinations in there. Some will be only available for the third T20, which is, of course, Lockie Ferguson.
Yes.
For the first two.
Yeah.
And Blair Tickner for the third.
What New Zealand needs to do is go back to playing those bowlers or bowling all rounders rather than preferring batting all rounders. That's something which a lesson should be learned from the series which just went by, because you need bowlers to create that impact. And I think over dependence on utility cricketers, giving half of departments is at times cost you games. Like you are creating a scenario like today when there are 18 for 4, but you're still cautious of the fact that who's going to bowl your last overs, because you didn't have that out and out bowler who could give you that breakthrough in the middle overs when the partnership was building. So I think they need to move away from that thought process. So that's why the likes of Grandom, Santner, Bracewell, they need to categorize them in such a way where the balance is maintained with ball and bat.
You see this all through. England have been guilty of that in the Test series in the West Indies as well. In cricket, two halves don't make a full. If you're half a batsman, half a bowler, it doesn't make you a full cricketer. You've got to be a batsman first or a bowler first, and then have a second skill that makes you valuable in the side. I think, for example, Hardik Pandya is probably an example of a bit of this and a bit of that, but both aspects of his game are growing now. Yeah. So he's a proper all-rounder in the short form for sure. But what Zach said is absolutely true. You can't be half of this and half of that and pretend to be one.
Yeah, we used to always, as kids growing up, we used to always try and find out, is there such a thing as a 50-50 all-rounder? And very often you'd come up short in the discussion. Jacques Kallis probably comes
close.
You're
not both, you're neither. You're
Fair
not
enough.
both, you're neither. Yeah. So Jacques Kallis comes once in a generation.
Exactly
Once in a generation. So you get those very rarely. You even look at the others. You look at the Flintoffs, you look at the Stokes. Their batting average was lower than their bowling average. So they're not all-rounders in that sense. The last big all-rounder before Kallis was Sean Pollock, who had batting average in the 30s and a bowling average in the 20s. But your batting average has to be at least 7 or 8 more than your bowling average to be a proper all-rounder. And it's not the case. It wasn't the case with Flintoff. Holder's doing that now, so it's very difficult.
Yep. Well, New Zealand still have a bit of cricket to play. Remember, once India go back after these 3 T20 internationals, Bangladesh will be visiting them, which is why it's probably a good time to try and focus on #MyWorldCup squad with Bangladesh.
You're the resident Bangladesh expert, aren't you?
Yes. So I've been forced to sort of enter this race. I was told that I would wait till a little closer to the IPL before getting going. But when it comes to Bangladesh, fair enough. I've gone for a punt, and this is the 15 I've put out there. There are going to be a couple of quick little riders. I'm not too sure about the photograph, but yeah, there's a couple of little riders
I'm pretty sure. It doesn't surprise me at all.
Sticking, just having a look at that. Now, Imrul Kais, while I certainly have seen him bat recently, seems to be out of favour with the Bangladesh selectors. So, again, from the selectors' point of view, a bit of a question mark.
You're picking your team, you're not picking the team.
Absolutely. I'm still putting him in. And Taskin Ahmed, from an injury point of view, is the question mark, which is why, if there was an injury issue, I would go with Abu Haider as a possible replacement, or even punt on an Ariful Haq, who's a good all-rounder. But for Imrul Kais, if you had to have a replacement, Naeem Hassan, off-spinner, youngster, would be a possible throw. But this is the 15 I'm putting out there.
Okay, so we worked it differently, didn't we? Because Gautam started with 18 players and brought it down to 15. I started with 11, then I moved up to 12 or 13, and then said, okay, who are the remaining 2? Because I believe the 11 should pick itself first. So the 11 was easy to pick for Bangladesh, and then we went on. So I picked my 15 as well. So I tend to pick teams in batting orders, So I think Tamim Iqbal, Liton Das, Imrul Qais are my three openers, though I know that Soumya Sarkar can do it as well. If there's a change, then maybe Imrul Qais can go out for another bowler, because my team is a bit short on bowling. Then Shakib, Mushfiq, Mahmudullah, that's the big core. Mohammad Mithun can bat in the middle order, double up as a keeper if required. I know Shabir Rahman has been in the middle of controversy, but every time I've seen Shabir Rahman, Bangladesh 5 wickets down, you think, yeah, right, we've got a chance, and Shabir comes at number 6, 7 and tends to change games. So I like him at 7. And then I've got another all-rounder in Musaddiq Hussain, who played the Asia Cup and did a bit of this, bit of that. He's a little bit of what I talked about just now. A bit of this and a bit of that, but not enough of either. Then Mashrafi, Mustafizur, Rubel and Saifuddin are the two other fast bowlers. If I've got only one spinner in Mehdi Hassan, it's because Shakib is the other spinner, and you get enough spin out of Musaddiq, and you get spin out of Mahmudullah. So I'd still like one spinner in place of a batsman.
Yeah, I mean, that's again, I mean, I chucked in the name of Naeem Hassan there, who's an off spinner. But the real question is, Bangladesh have traditionally always been so focused on left arm spin from the days of Abdul Razak. They've got a couple of options. They've got Taijul Islam and they've got Nazmul Islam Oppu. But both of them are looked at more for the longer format of the game, so I don't know if they'll chuck them in.
But you never know. Sometimes in England, you get dry pitches. We saw in the Champions Trophy, sometimes you get dry pitches. You might want a proper spin bowling option. Suppose something happens to Mehdi Hassan, you want another spinner in the squad. So there's no harm in going in for a proper spinner. If you're okay with going in with a Rubel or a Fizz who don't bat very much, then why not go in with a test spinner, with a spinner who doesn't bat very much?
They pulled off a few surprises, but when it's a long form, 9 matches, you still know that it's not exactly someone you're going to chuck in the first 4, the Bangladeshis yet.
You want to cover the bases as well. You know, that's something which has been the base thought with all the teams. I think it's Musharfi also going to provide that that bowling option of third simmer, and he's been using himself very well. He'll use him very wisely. But they do need spin option in the middle overs for sure. You know, Shakib retains that balance, but they've been going to Soumya Sarkar also. You know, for at times to bowl those 3 or 4 overs. But it's important to have that spin option and find that option and back someone for the World Cup.
So in terms of backup, suppose they play four full bowlers with the 3 seamers and Shakib, and you still got Musaddiq, you still got Mahmudullah, you still got Soumya Sarkar. So a couple of them earn their place in the side as batsmen. So you can still play 5 batsmen and have these part-time bowlers. So I think it's a pretty well-balanced side, that Bangladesh team. I only hope they believe in themselves enough to cause some upsets, and occasionally a little more humble.
Now, while we were chatting about all these things and we are trying to get our 15s in, not quite 11s, even though 11 is the essential part, there's something I'm looking forward to seeing. It's the Stranger 11. Now, the first time I came up with it, I was like, I really want to know more about this. And it's trying to get our viewers much more engaged in this. Do you know much about this yet?
I know that.
Stranger 11, I know, because strange things happen in our game.
is involved with that, so it's going to be a fun segment.
Okay, it's going to be a fun segment. We've just given you a hint of what it could possibly be, but for all of you, in case you don't know what it is, this is coming up on 5th of February, and have a look. Here's a little teaser.
Wellington not play is a completely different thing. Plus, we always believe that the players completely deserve it.
Too used to watching experts? Well, in India, it doesn't matter if you're an expert or not. If you have an opinion on cricket, you will say it.
See, I am honestly very sad. Indian culture has died. T20 में ladies को नचाने का क्या जरूरत? There is the sanctity of the game.
Uncle,
it has completely been ruined by these youths.
Uncle, आप आस्थमा का पंप मारवा. तो मैं क्या बोलता हूँ, टीम बस में मेरे को ले लो. मैं जिसका टिकट काटना है काट दूंगा. जिसको देना है दूंगा, और उधर ही हम लोग टीम बस में डिसाइड करेंगे ना कौन 11 लोग खेलने वाले बोल के.
If you both uneducated people can shut up, see, new talents have to emerge. There was Mohinder Vishwanath, then there was Sabah Kirmani. You know, there was a phase when KL Dravid came, and now there is a new exciting young prospect, Parthiv Shaw. I'm a big fan of this.
Hear the real voices on Stranger 11, coming soon on Cricbuzz.
Please hold man, just shut up. I'll hit you with a tranquilizer shot and kill you.
It's got its 4. India lift the World Cup.
That's the beauty of this sport. You've got so many voices, so many different kinds of people who have a million different opinions, and I think it's going to be a bit of fun.
Why do I get the feeling that I recognize all those characters there? I recognize all of them, including the guy who bowls with the bent arm. You saw that one little clip, he was bowling with a proper bent arm, but this is a strange 11, right? And a stranger 11, so we can have strange bowling actions as well. But I don't think any of us will probably sit with our feet up on the chair.
I was just going to do that, just to say that, are we allowed to do that? I mean, it's fun. We like to have a bit of fun.
Ajay Jadeja will be very happy to know that you can sit.
Put his feet up?
Put his feet up. He's been wanting to do that.
Oh, yeah, cross-legged, put his feet up. I think don't show him that promo, that's for sure. Don't show him that promo, or maybe he's already seen it. And in case you need actually more, and just to see what it's actually going to be like to have all your voices out there, get on the Cricbuzz app and you can see the first teaser of the show that starts on the 5th of February right here on Cricbuzz. But of course, we've also have a few strange questions thrown at you. Today we had another one from our stalwart Joy Bhattacharya. This is today's Joy Factor question. Just a reminder, as usual, we've had a barrage of answers. Hashtag Cricbuzz Live, it's coming. Which former New Zealand and Wellington stalwart shared a nickname with a Utah Jazz basketball player? Because when the match was on the line, they always delivered. Now, I have a bit of a bone to pick after we deliver the answer. Let's have a look at the answer, what it is.
Please
and the answer
please don't talk bones with Zach.
Yep. It's Gavin Larson, who was actually called the postman, much like Karl Malone of the Utah Jazz. Though if you have to be really picky, and if I'm allowed to poke a hole in it...
See, just because he also is a quiz host.
Yeah, exactly. Quizzers like to have a go at each other. He was actually called Karl the Mailman Malone.
But postman is a better word.
Postman, mailman is just because the Americans
but
like
he always delivers.
Always deliver. They both deliver.
So wasn't there a footballer who also always delivered?
So what was he called?
He thought he did. He wasn't called that. His name was Mario Balotelli. He thought he always delivered. But he said, I don't celebrate when I score a goal, because does the postman celebrate when he delivers a letter?
Interesting. There you go.
He says, my job to score goals. So maybe he's another postman as well.
Yeah.
The only reason I said it was there were too many quizmasters around. I thought I'll slip one in.
But fair enough, fair enough. We're not being picky about it. Postman, mailman, same thing. These days, I think a lot of young kids wouldn't even know what a postman does. They just look in the inbox. But let's find out if we have...
Here's my postman.
There you go. Let's find out if we actually have a hat-trick. Remember, it was 2-2. Do we have a hat-trick or do we have a newcomer? Do we have a new message to be delivered or we have a hat-trick? How does this happen?
Because he's hacked into Joy's computer.
Yep.
And he also knows which question is coming on the first T20.
2 to Shwet, 3 to Sharath. We were hoping that the series would also be 3-2 in somebody's favour. It was looking like that for much of the 50 overs today when New Zealand were chasing that India would win the series 3-2. At the end, they decided, postman, mailman.
Listen, if you can rest Virat Kohli, why can't you rest Sharath and Shwet?
Sharath, Shwet, are you listening?
For how many games?
Rest them for all 3 games. Let them come back for India.
Once you've won one, then you can rest for
Give them a rest
the
for T20.
Give other people a chance.
Yeah.
All right, remember, Joy Factor is going to be around for the T20 International Series. So you two, you're rested as things stand because remember, there's no Virat Kohli. So when he comes back, you can come back. Fair? That's fair. Okay, T20, without getting too much in-depth into it, it's just different things to take out for both the sides. But again, individual performances to look at. Do you see more of the same coming from India, even with 30 overs less?
Absolutely, I think that's something which will be the case. It's just that when you play a different format, your approach also changes. So I think with this format, New Zealand team will be very happy. If you look at the series which has gone, they've been struggling to play those 50 overs. So they'll be happy that they have to deal with 20 overs. I think from India's point of view, it'll just the focus will be once more. Again, following those processes, which they've been doing fantastically well. It's just about regrouping and saying that okay, now it's a different format. Okay, what are the plans? How are we going to go about it? So these kind of discussions will flow. But India surely is more confident side to clinch the series.
Given how much the focus has been on the World Cup, maybe a little lighter these games because there's not that much riding. But I think they'll still want. We talked about a couple of key players. We talked about Rishabh Pant and Karthik. To help if Shikhar gets a score.
If Rishabh Pant was on the Cricbuzz app before he got onto his flight, he wouldn't agree with you because you said all the focus is going to be on him.
On Rishabh Pant, yes. So focus on Rishabh Pant, little focus on Dinesh Karthik, but it would be very nice if Shikhar Dhawan gets some runs even in the T20s. So he goes into the games against Australia, which are not that far apart, right? The one day ends on the 10th. The first game against Australia starts on the 24th, so literally 2 weeks in Visakhapatnam.
But New Zealand get even less time. They've got 3 days before their first ODI against Bangladesh.
Yeah, but they're just next door. No, they're at home still.
Fair enough.
It's just different coloured clothes people come in.
I thought you were going to talk about the opposition again.
Bangladesh?
Yes.
No, the one that really gets me is Sri Lanka. I don't know who does Sri Lanka's planning, but how can you have a series, how can you have a season where you're playing New Zealand away, then going to Australia away, then going to South Africa away in a World Cup year? I mean, maybe they think that we're playing in different conditions, but I'd like to see how many people are standing by the time they get to South Africa.
Yeah.
So
it's almost like a Premier League draw when you're playing Manchester United, Man City and Liverpool in 7 days.
I don't know. I only know ISL. I don't know all these. It's okay.
For a man who's truly into football in his second avatar. Thank you, gentlemen, once again. That's the end of the 50-over format. We're going to get a little more relaxed here. We're not going to have our feet up on the couches quite yet, but it simply means they're going to get up a little bit later in the morning, as can all of you, because we're going to be there at noon come 3 days' time for the first of 3 T20 internationals between India and New Zealand. So take it easy, get some more sleep. We'll see you then.